Howdy, my fellow woodgassengers, as in passengers on the Woodgas Express to success. I've been doing a little bit more work on my little smoke bomb here, and I've got to the point where I now have a working lid. It's a religious experience. You may remember I was trying to figure out how to do the hinge and how to get things to line up. What I've done is I've used some 2" by 2", or to say it in old-fashioned measurements, 50mm square angle line by 5mm thick, so it's plenty solid. What I've done is I've made a hinge box out of that to receive this hinge rod, or whatever you might want to call it, using this as the hinge pin. It's spring loaded, spring here, and a spring there, and a spring everywhere, and it's adjustable, so by tweaking these you can adjust this aspect of it, thereby ensuring that this lies flat against the fire door rope that I've recently opted to put in there. That's just sitting in there at the moment, but eventually it's going to be cemented with perhaps some sort of RTV type stuff to stop him from coming out. Also, I need to finish the welding on the satellite antenna that detects wood gas bugs. There are a couple of wood gas bug holes in it that I need to fill up with wood gas bug putty. Maybe even some hot melt from the stick welder down here or the Miggity welder here. The two of them work very nicely to keep the metal glued together. One of the things that required a bit of attention with this was that I was trying to figure out how to make that so as it would stand up to puffbacks at the same time as making it single hand operable. As I like the idea of being able to just open and close this without really having to think about it. So my approach has been to put a latching system on here that works a bit like on a door where it locks itself when you close it. So as you drop the lid, that swings out on a piece of angled iron here, and when you push down on it, it latches, thereby securing the top with sufficient force that you can lift the whole gasifier with it. Yes, I tried it and it works. Now, because this hinge is a little bit, I believe the scientific term is wibbly wobbly, so you get this effect, I've opted to put this little registration pin here and a receptacle to take it, so as when you lower the lid it registers on that, thereby preventing wibble wobblenicity. See, that's another scientific term that needs to be known. So once engaged, should there be a flatulence event in the wood gas community who are presently partying up in here, it's going to try to lift the lid. It can't lift it because that is stopping it, but instead it acts on the spring. So I'll try to get that working. There we go. A bit awkward. There we go. So you've got that motion that should occur relative to this latch catchy thing. And of course the other spring over here will permit the other half of the lid to move in the same fashion. It still needs a little bit of refinement, but I'm pretty much home and hosed with that now. So that is something I can pretty much put away. I'm quite happy with that. The next little old thing is to look at the idea of bringing air into him. In the olden days it used to have these noozles to bring air to the burny thing. See, I know all the scientific terms. What I plan to do is use this, put this in the lathe and turn off the high spots to make that round, and very gently smack it through here with a sledgehammer and glue it on with hot melt glue from one of these two machines, so as to facilitate an anchor point of some kind. I probably need to think about that because of the weight of the whole thing. It might make it buckle or something, but I'll work it out as I go, using the TILA principle. This looks about right. Now, something Flash told me in a recent comment was that it was better to run the air inlet down the middle all the way to the burny bit at the bottom, instead of coming in close and then doglegging out to it. And yes, I tend to agree. Doing it this way, we don't have our fuel getting bridged here. Luckily for me, this just happens to fit in such a way that the whole thing can be turned around in there once it's attached to that, thereby allowing me to take this out and that, as well as of course the vertical pipe that will have the nozzle at the end of it, and thereby making everything easy peasy Japanesey to replace, even when it burns out. So that's the deal with the gasificator at the moment. It's coming along pretty nicely. This nice weather is certainly helping. So it's making life a lot easier. As you know, this thing burned up in winter time, and well, it's really difficult to work on this kind of thing when you're basically sticking to yourself with ice. Now, talking of sticking to things, I have an update to bring your way. The flow of videos may get interrupted as I'm fixing to sell this place and move on to another farm, as opposed to going into town or anything like that. If I point you in this general direction and zoom you in past my rusty old car, you'll see a whole bunch of houses that just were not there very recently. Same sort of things happening in the other direction and up in the hills behind me. Heavy machinery has been busy. Trucks galore, bringing building materials this way and that, and taking land, dug up land away, getting ready to put in hundreds of houses. So I've decided to jump in on it, sell this place and move me to a much nicer property about 100 odd miles north of here. That means I can build an even bigger gasifier, or even a row of these things. So if the supply of video molecules dries up for any old reason, don't fear. I wasn't kidnapped by a squadron of woodgas bugs, but they have been trying, but I've got my neck guard on, so I'm good. It's been the moving process. The great shift. I figure what I'll do is put everything on the excavator and drive along at 1 mile an hour. Shouldn't take anything more than about a week to get there at that rate. We'll see about that too, I suppose. So, boys and girls, here's hoping you liked my little random ramble and update on the Gasotronics 9000. It's been a real adventure, and I'm really loving this stuff. I'm totally addicted to it. But then, of course, that ain't special news to anyone. We're all addicted. They're all hopelessly addicted. And we still have the bumps on our necks from the original woodgas bug fang bite, which injected the venom of addiction into our veins, whereupon it courses forever, if not longer. Okay, boys and girls, here's hoping you enjoyed your little ramble session with CNC McFun and his woodgas bugs. Bye.